OLIYNYKOVA has sparked major controversy after accusing the WTA of pressuring her to stay silent about players alleged.
She came to Strasbourg, got publicly attacked, and then made the whole tennis world go silent. Alex Eala just did the unthinkable.
OLIYNYKOVA has sparked major controversy after accusing the WTA of pressuring her to stay silent about players allegedly showing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, buckle up tight, because this is the kind of story that reminds you exactly why sports exist in the first place. This is not just a tennis match we are talking about. This is a moment.
Actually, it's a big luck to compete in this tournament because I live and practice in Kiev, and because of Russian attacks, we have a very big problem with electricity.
A full-blown, cameras flashing, jaw-dropping, press room to clay court dramatic moment that had the entire tennis world stopping in its tracks and paying attention. And sitting right at the center of all of it is a 20-year-old girl from the Philippines who just refuses, absolutely refuses, to let anyone dim her light. Her name is Alex Eala, and if you have not been paying attention to her story, today is the day that changes. Let us paint the picture for you properly, because the stage matters in a story like this. Strasbourg, France. The International de Strasbourg, a prestigious WTA 500 clay court tournament nestled right in that golden window before the French Open begins. This is where the contenders separate themselves from the pretenders on the red dirt, where players either arrive with form or leave without it. Alex Eala arrived in Strasbourg, ready to compete as part of her preparations for the French Open. Manila times, and she walked into that tournament with exactly the kind of energy that makes her dangerous. Confident, focused, and carrying the pride of an entire nation on her shoulders, which, if you have been following this young woman's career at all, is something she has been doing for years already. Now here is where the drama kicks into a completely different gear. Because waiting in the wings, watching the cameras and the journalists swarm around Eala like she was some kind of red carpet celebrity arrival, was Alexandra OLIYNYKOVA, the Ukrainian competitor. And OLIYNYKOVA is not the type of person who bites her tongue when something is bothering her. Not even close. She is raw, she is direct, and on this particular day in Strasbourg, she was absolutely burning. She looked at the media circus surrounding Eala, watched the promotional machinery turning in full gear around the Filipino star, and she could not hold it in any longer. She opened her mouth and let it all fly. She questioned the wild card entry, she questioned the sponsorship infrastructure. She pointed at all the resources surrounding Eala and essentially posed the question out loud, right there in front of every journalist and camera in the room, whether any of it actually translated to anything real once the two of them stepped onto the clay, together. Her words were not whispered, they were declared. She called the whole thing a media creation and suggested that when it came down to competing on the actual court, all the money and backing in the world would not help. Let's see if it helps on clay, she said, with a cold certainty that made you genuinely believe she meant every single syllable.
And then just globally, do you have a sense of, I'm not trying to give you an ego here, but like if you look at the numbers on YouTube for like the pre-tournament press conferences, how much people watch them? Yours is that?
The room absolutely froze. Cameras swung around. Journalists leaned forward. Everyone in that press room was waiting to see how Alex Eala would respond to being publicly challenged and openly dismissed in front of the entire assembled tennis media. Would she stumble? Would she get defensive? Would she retreat into some carefully prepared corporate non-answer designed to avoid controversy and protect her image? Not even close. Not even for a second. Eala straightened up, looked directly into those cameras, and delivered one of the most composed and devastating responses you will ever hear from any 20-year-old athlete on this planet, in the middle of a media storm. She did not attack OLIYNYKOVA back. She did not get emotional or rattled. She went straight to the absolute heart of it. I didn't choose where I was born. Whining online won't make you a champion. Hard work does. Read that again. Because that is not just a good line. That is a statement of identity. That is a young woman telling the entire world, with complete calm and total certainty, that she knows exactly who she is, and she has absolutely zero interest in defending herself to anyone who does not understand what it actually took to get here. The press room went silent, and then every camera in that room started clicking furiously, because every journalist and commentator in that space understood at exactly the same moment that they had just witnessed something that would define the entire narrative of the Strasbourg tournament before a single ball had even been struck. Now let us give you the full picture here, because context is not just important in this story, it is absolutely everything, and Alex Eala deserves to have her story told correctly. Because here is the thing that people who reduce her success to sponsorship money and wildcard entries consistently get completely wrong. This young woman did not stumble into tennis excellence through lucky connections and fortunate circumstances. She earned every single thing she has, starting from the very beginning. With tennis seen as more of a niche sport in the Philippines without much established success on the global stage, Eala made the extraordinary decision to move as a 13-year-old to Mallorca, Spain, to train at Rafael Nadal's academy. ESPN, think about what that actually means for a moment. A teenager, leaving her home country, moving to another continent, training among some of the most elite junior tennis prospects in the world, far from everything familiar. That is not a decision made by a girl who was handed a free pass. That is a decision made by a competitor who was already willing to sacrifice everything in pursuit of excellence. She reached the world #2 junior ranking and became the 2022 U.S. Open junior champion, making her the highest-ranked Filipino woman ever. Olympics when she won that U.S. Open Girls Championship title in September 2022. Without dropping a single set in the entire tournament, she became the first Filipino to win a tennis Grand Slam of any kind, and the reaction back home was absolutely wild. Olympics, she did not just compete at Flushing Meadows, she dominated. She lifted that trophy, and she did it in a way that captured the imagination of every Filipino tennis fan and planted a flag that told the world this country belonged on the grandest stage the sport has to offer. She also won Grand Slam doubles titles at junior level, lifting the 2020 Australian Open Girls Trophy and the 2021 French Open doubles title, Tennis 365, which tells you this is not a one-tournament wonder. This is a pattern of sustained excellence built over years of relentless work in one of the most demanding athletic training environments on Earth. And the professional trajectory? Nothing short of breathtaking. She spent most of 2023 and 2024 on the ITF circuit before her phenomenal run in Miami in 2025 changed everything. ESPN, when she walked into the Miami Open, ranked well outside the top 100 and proceeded to stun 3 Grand Slam champions in succession on her way to a historic semifinal appearance. She became the first player from the Philippines to reach a WTA 1000 semifinal and the first player ranked outside the top 100 to defeat Iga Swiatek in 4 years. Yahoo Sports. Let that sink in. 4 years. The #1 player in the world, beaten by a teenage girl from the Philippines that most of the tour had barely heard of 12 months prior. Now about the wild card at Strasbourg that OLIYNYKOVA took such issue with. Wildcard entries are a completely standard part of professional tennis. Every single tournament on the WTA calendar distributes them. Eala was moved into the Strasbourg Open main draw ahead of the tournament. GMA News Online, a decision that reflects the commercial and sporting reality of professional tennis, which is that tournaments want compelling narratives and exciting players who will bring attention to the event. Eala is that player. She is a compelling story, an exciting competitor, and a genuine box office draw. That is not a scandal. That is the sport working exactly as it has always worked for every player who generates excitement and interest. But let us also be fair here, because OLIYNYKOVA's frustration, even if misdirected at an individual, does point to something real. OLIYNYKOVA herself had to fight through 2 qualifying rounds just to earn her place in the main draw at Strasbourg. GMA News Online, grinding through matches when other players walked straight in. The gap between well-resourced players and those competing without the same infrastructure is a genuine structural issue throughout professional tennis, and it deserves serious conversation. The sport can be deeply unequal, but that structural tension does not get resolved by questioning individuals in press rooms. It gets resolved by the people who run the sport making better decisions, and none of it changes what happens when the ball is in play. Because when Eala and OLIYNYKOVA walked onto that clay court at the Strasbourg Open, every bit of press room noise became completely irrelevant. The opinions, the hot takes, the social media debates, all of it evaporated the moment the match began. What remained was movement and shot selection and mental fortitude and the ability to execute under genuine pressure when the competitor on the other side of the net is fighting with absolutely everything she has got. OLIYNYKOVA came out trying to make good on her pre-match rhetoric with the kind of heavy, physical, grinding clay court game designed to overwhelm players who are not comfortable fighting through long, punishing baseline exchanges. She was not trying to win quickly. She was trying to wear Eala down, to test whether the Filipinos' game held up under sustained relentless pressure. And the honest answer to that test? She matched OLIYNYKOVA physically, absorbed the pressure, and found ways to construct points with pace variation, heavy topspin, and intelligent use of angles that the clay surface rewards. Most critically of all, she stayed composed. She stayed focused during the tight moments. She demonstrated the kind of mental architecture that no sponsor can purchase and no media campaign can manufacture. That is built through years of competition, through losses that sting and victories that teach, through the daily grind that every serious professional tennis player endures, regardless of how much financial backing they have. The result was a win for Eala, a clear, definitive, resounding statement delivered not with words in a press room, but with a racket on a clay court, which is precisely the arena where OLIYNYKOVA had publicly declared the truth would emerge. Well, the truth did emerge. It just did not emerge in the direction OLIYNYKOVA had been anticipating when she fired her shots in front of all those cameras. The reaction across the tennis world was immediate and electric. Filipino fans erupted across every social media platform, sharing the match result alongside Eala's press room quote in posts that gathered tens of thousands of interactions within hours. Tennis commentators and analysts weighed in from every corner of the internet, nearly all of them highlighting the extraordinary maturity of Eala's verbal response and the composure she demonstrated physically on the court, both on the same day. Under the most intense public scrutiny imaginable, the hashtags multiplied. The clips went everywhere. By the time the clay settled on the day's results in Strasbourg, Alex Eala was not just a storyline, she was the only storyline anyone in professional tennis was talking about. And here is why this moment is bigger than just one match at one tournament, because you need to understand the full weight of what Alex Eala represents in the context of global tennis. The WTA Tour has spent years working to expand its presence and connection to Asian markets, and players from those regions have been absolutely critical to that effort. The impact that Naomi Osaka had on Japanese tennis culture was transformational. The legacy Li Na built in China opened up one of the largest sports markets in the world to genuine, passionate professional tennis engagement. Alex Eala has the potential to do something equally significant, if not larger, for the Philippines and for Southeast Asia as a whole. She is young, she is enormously talented, she communicates with intelligence and authenticity, and she carries a story that resonates with people everywhere who understand what it means to fight against expectations and prove doubters wrong. Every time she wins, every headline she generates, every moment like the one in that Strasbourg press room where she demonstrates grace under fire, it builds something far larger than a personal career. Filipino children watching this story unfold are seeing someone who looks like them, who came from where they came from, who walks into rooms and onto courts where her flag has rarely been carried before, and refuses to back down from anyone. That is the kind of thing that changes sports culture in an entire country for a generation. That is the kind of impact that can inspire thousands of kids to pick up a racket who might never have considered it before. And let us bring it all home with the fundamental question that OLIYNYKOVA actually posed in that press room, even if she did not intend it to be answered so directly and so completely. Her question was essentially this: are the resources around Eala responsible for her success, or is Eala herself responsible for it? And the answer that clay court in Strasbourg delivered was definitive. Resources help, coaching helps, support structures help, but they do not walk onto the court for you. They do not construct the mental fortitude required to hold your nerve when the match is tight and the pressure is enormous and the person across the net is fighting with everything she has. Eala herself has spoken about trying to channel Rafa Nadal's ability to think with a clear head, to be calm but fired up at the same time, and to not act irrationally when the moment demands the most from you. The Tennis Gazette, that philosophy, absorbed through years of training at the highest level, showed up in the most important possible way when it mattered most. She earned the spotlight. She proved it on the court. And with Roland Garros right around the corner, the red clay of Paris waiting, the entire tennis world now fully locked in on her story. Something tells us that what happened in Strasbourg is not the peak of this narrative. It is the opening chapter. Because this is Alex Eala we are talking about, and she is only just getting started. If this story has you fired up the way it has us fired up, do us a massive favor and hit that like button right now, because it genuinely helps this content reach more tennis fans around the world who need to be part of this conversation. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Alex Eala has what it takes to make a serious run at Roland Garros? Did OLIYNYKOVA make a massive mistake by handing Eala all that extra motivation before their match? We read every single comment, and we want to hear your take. And if you are not subscribed to this channel yet, what on earth are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and join the family, because we cover every angle of this sport with the passion and depth it deserves. We will see you in the next one.
Alexandra Olyynykova has sparked major controversy after accusing the WTA of pressuring her to stay silent about players allegedly showing support